ever have a time in your life when you're thinking about why? Like why do I feel that way? Hmm. And you kind of don't know. And you have to think about other surrounding circumstances, like people that influenced you or institutions or teachers or anything like that. And I'm just remembering how I've been struggling with the whole calling myself a poet thing and why that seems like it should be wrong. Uh, and I just remembered as I was kind of contemplating this, I remembered my very first English teacher post-secondary when I got to college. And it was an introductory English class that, the kind that everybody has to take, right? Where you're learning kind of the basics of how to write an academic paper most of the time. That was this class anyway. And my teacher, I remember, he said the most amazing thing that day, the first day. I was just like, thank goodness. It happened 20 years ago, and I still remember it. He came into the room, he had a bottle of Nestea iced tea stuff in his hand that he'd just gotten from a vending machine. I don't know why I remember such weird details like this, but I do. He came in, he's holding this, puts it down, and of course we're all sitting there. We're all first year, brand new students. I'd been out of high school for a few years at this point and was really scared to go back to school after graduating grade 12. Why? Because when I was in grade 12, I was told, and my mother and my father were told by a teacher that I had, that I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to write anything. That I seemed to think that I knew what I was writing about and talking about, but in his estimation, I didn't. Fast forward about 4 years when I got to the college, and I remember my teacher that night saying, forget everything that they taught you in high school about writing. They don't know what they're talking about. They think they do, but they don't. So if you're here and you're apprehensive about it, don't be. And it was like that. It was just direct and at the same time incredibly comforting. It felt like a warm sweater on a cold, cold day, quite honestly. And it did help. And he then proceeded to do what my high school teachers would not do, that being actually teach you how to write stuff. And, from there, it got easier. And it was kind of fun to look back at that high school English teacher who was a total jerk. Oh my God, he was the worst. Stab, stab, stab. I hated that guy. Anyway, it kind of put him in his place, and in my head anyway, and felt like really, really nice, and I hope that at some point that has happened in your life situation where somebody in a position of authority said something and later on at some point you realize, oh, that really affected me, like a lot. And apparently that teacher still kind of affects me even now, even though he was so rude a quarter century ago. These things stick with people. I also just watched a video about poetry reading and what not to do in order to do it properly. And I was like, oh yes, that's right. That's something that English teacher in high school encouraged out of us when it came to reading poetry. We had to be dramatic. in order to read a poem. It was this big dramatic thing, and you had to perform it, and it was just like, seriously? When I think back on it now, I'm just like, see, you're just an academic who wasn't quite good enough, so you're stuck in high school teaching. But my college and university level teachers, obviously, I hold in higher esteem. And I realize the conflict that I've been dealing with the negative self-talk that came at me when I was younger, a lot younger, and how that kind of impacted things, and then subsequent life events, and how those seemingly sometimes reinforced the old messages that were given to me way back, and it all served to bring me down with it, and therefore take away my sense of comfort and confidence with the act of writing. But I am feeling more inspired and on track with this now, because I've had so many people here on YouTube talking about these matters and asking me for my take on stuff and sharing my own work. As my throat always likes to go as soon as I think about it or talk about sharing my own things. And yeah, I don't know if I'm really sharing anything all that groundbreaking, but I just hope that you're at least aware of the origins of your feelings about certain things, because a lot of times we just don't remember how the feeling got there in the first place. So often we're told, this is the way it is. That's it. Get over it. Suck it up, buttercup, that kind of stuff, right? And as a young child, or even not so young child, you're kind of left at loose ends being like, well, for some reason, I don't find this acceptable, whatever it is. In my case, I don't find it acceptable that, this one jerk, basically, decided that he was gonna pick on me and, proceed to give me the worst grades I ever got in English in all of my life. Up until his classes, by the way, I got straight A's in English. Straight. Like, without even trying. Like, and then this guy shows up and he starts giving me, like, C's and D's. I'm thinking it's you, my guy. Not me. Just saying. Just throwing it out there. So if somebody in your past sort of planted a seed like that impacts things through the years, especially when we don't realize or think about it all that often. And we usually don't think about those things very often because they're uncomfortable. Who wants to think back on a memory of, being humiliated? Because that used to happen, in front of my class. My teacher would read what I wrote and just be like, that's terrible. When you're in grade 11 and grade 12, that is a very vulnerable time, I would say, and for most of us. And to be sort of mocked and ridiculed like that, and then basically told, you're just a dummy. That impacts things. So I guess this is a message ultimately of being kind and thinking before we speak. and being considerate of other people's abilities and challenges. And just being nice. Just be nice, for God's sake, you know? I know that you're likely a nice person who is watching this. Most people who watch my videos are, so I'm not really saying like you, pointing the finger at you, but, you know, the collective you, we, all of us. And it's important to go inward and reflect on just why we feel captured and ensnared in these very limiting and damaging beliefs. Because they just do that. They just keep us stuck and in pain. And that's not okay. So, even though it might suck to think about, you know, it's worth going back to those high school years and reviewing and sort of assessing why, you know, and what happened, you know, and understanding where you're coming from. Who knows? It could generate some poetry. Could be worth it. Well, I've prattled on long enough, I would say. I hope you're doing well, and don't worry, I am writing more again, and I am considering more seriously reading some of that with you or to you. So don't worry. It is happening. It's just slow. It's me. It's slow. There's the things. The subscribe button is there, and there's a video down there, and I hope you'll check it out. I'll see you later.